Alright guys, welcome back to the 108th episode of this review series where I review everything in Fortnite Save the World. For this episode, I'm going to be doing a review on the pepper sprayer. So first, let's get into the perks I put on it. For this first one, you can have crit rating, headshot damage, magazine size, or weapon stability. And I put crit rating because I have a crit build on this, and for a crit build you need 1 crit rating and as much crit damage you can put on the weapon. And so I put crit rating here, and the reason you don't choose headshot damage is because headshots, sometimes enemies don't always face you, so you're not always going to get those headshots, and then recoil control is kind of hard when you're always aiming for the head. And then, it also does less damage than a crit, so there's no reason to go with headshot damage. And then magazine size, I'd say having a crit build is way better than having a higher magazine, so that's why I didn't choose that. And then weapon stability just helps with recoil control, but like, just get good at aiming. And so then the next one we got crit damage, fight rate, or magazine size. And crit damage all around does more damage than a flat damage perk. And then fire rate just makes the weapon shoot faster, but without this extra crit damage, you'll be doing less damage, and it's just a waste of bullets. And then magazine size, it's just like, why would you choose this when you could choose a perk that does extra damage, like crit damage? So yeah, it's just a waste of a perk also. And then for this next one we got, for the element, energy, fire, nature, physical, or water. And if you're going against nature enemies, choose fire. If you're going against water enemies, choose nature. And if you're going against fire enemies, choose water. And then if you just don't want to change based on what element you're going against, then you could choose energy, because energy does 75% damage to elemental enemies instead of like 100% damage to like fire to nature enemies. And then physical is good against enemies with no element, and enemies that always spawn with no element are blasters, takers, lobbers, flingers, and sploders. Or you could use this if you're fighting in a storm with no elemental enemies, because sometimes that happens. So I just went in with energy because it's all around good for elemental enemies, and that's what I'm mainly fighting against. And then we got crit damage, crit rating, damage, headshot damage, or magazine size. And as I said before, with a crit build, you only need 1 crit rating, so don't choose it here, choose it up top. So I just went with crit damage, and then damage does this damage and crit damage, headshot damage. Even if you like aim for the head all the time, it still does this damage and crit damage. And then magazine size just gives you an extra bigger magazine, but you're also doing less damage because you don't have a crit damage perk on here. And then we got this next perk, damage, crit rating, damage to missed monsters and bosses, damage to afflicted targets, or damage to slowed and snared targets. And before we choose what you're gonna pick here, let's look at the final perk, the special perk. And based on what it is, you're actually gonna change your playstyle with this weapon. So mine is standing in place for 2 seconds, grants plus 11% damage, and stacks up to 5 times. Moving from that position removes the effect completely. And with this one, you're actually gonna choose damage for this 5th perk, because it increases your damage while you're standing still. And with this, your playstyle is actually gonna be, you're gonna stand like next to your base, and you're just gonna spray down the enemies while standing still, so you can activate this final perk and do some extra damage. And then also, there's a perk that's standing still will increase damage against missed monsters. And if it's that, then choose this 5th perk to be damage to missed monsters and bosses. Because if the standing still perk is against missed monsters, and your 5th perk is against missed monsters, you're just doing a lot of extra damage against them, and you're gonna have the same playstyle as the perk before it, where you're just gonna stand next to a base and just spray down enemies while you're standing still. But for this one, you're gonna spray down mainly the mist monsters, since your mainly damage is against mist monsters. And then there's also standing still gives you shield, and if you have that, throw away this weapon, because that is a terrible perk. And then there's also, this weapon applies affliction to your enemies, and with that, your 5th perk is going to be damage to afflicted targets, because if it afflicts enemies, then you're going to be doing more damage to them, and so you're going to be choosing damage to afflicted targets. And then the final one that could be is it slows and snares the targets. And if it's that, then you're going to be choosing damage to slowed and snared targets. And also, if it's those final two that I said where it afflicts the targets or slows and snared the targets, then you're going to change up the playstyle where you're not standing still. You're actually going to be rushing the enemies because you don't need to stand still. And with the SMG, it's good to rush enemies, so you're just going to be rushing instead of standing still. And next for the hero loadout, for the commander, I'm using Tactical Assault Sledgehammer, and he has Assault Crit Damage Plus, which increases Assault and SMG critical damage by 225%. SMG bonus does not stack with Make It Count. So whenever you hit a crit, you'll be doing a lot of extra damage, and with him, you'll be doing a lot more extra damage, and it's really good. Then we got the team perk Blast from the Past, which removes all shield and increases max health by 200%. And requires 2 dinosaur heroes. And removing shield isn't really that big of a problem because shield is only a tiny percent of your health, and with this your health is increased to a total of 300% of your normal health. So that's really good because without the shield it doesn't even matter, and you got all this extra health, so you could get hit a lot more before you die. And then we got for the support team, Saurian Might from Rex Jonesy, and what he does is every 1 second adds 3% of current health to damage of next ranged weapon hit. So this means the higher you keep your health, the higher damage you'll be doing, so you're gonna make sure you try not to get hit as much, because if you don't get hit as much, your health won't go down as much, and so you'll be doing a lot of extra damage with him. And then we got Saurian Hide from Prehistoric Izza, and while shield is depleted, it increases armor by 33. And as I said before, with Blast from the Past, you always have no shield, so that means it's always depleted, and you always have this extra armor, so that just lets you get hit more, and whenever they hit you, it'll actually do less damage to you, so you'll be able to take a lot more hits, and stay in the battle for a lot longer. And then we got Assault Damage from Rescue Trooper Ramirez or Rescue Trooper Havoc, and they both do the same thing, which increases Assault and SMG damage by 17%, and SMG bonus does not stack with Hip Shot. So what this means is, this is SMG, and it'll do more damage. And then we got Explosive Rounds from Wukong, and what he does is every 6 ranged weapon eliminations trigger an explosion, which deal 37 base damage in a 1 tile radius. And if you have the same 6 perk as me, or the one that standing still does extra damage to miss monsters, then this is going to be really crucial because you're going to be standing still the whole time. So that means whenever a horde rushes you, you're going to need to be able to take them out. And with this, you'll be triggering all these explosions, making all of the horde take extra damage from the explosions and be able to take them out quicker so that they don't reach you and deal some damage. And then we got Survivalist from Survivalist Jonesy or Birthday Brigade Jonesy, and they both do the same thing, which is eliminations heal you for 39 base health over 3 seconds. Duration refreshes with additional eliminations. And what this means is the more kills you get, the longer regeneration you have. So with regeneration, your health gets higher, and in conjunction with Rex Jonesy will be really good because with Survivalist you'll be getting kills and getting your health up, and then with Rex Jonesy, the more health you have, the more damage you do. So like you'll be doing extra damage and getting more kills, and then with those more kills you get your health back up, and it's just a cycle that just keeps repeating, and you'll be doing all this extra damage. And also, health doesn't regen to full, so like health only goes up to 30% and then it just stops regenning. And without shield regenerates to full, and with Blast from the Past you have no shield, so you would be running at 30% health the whole time or less if you keep taking all this damage. But with Survivalist you can regen past 30% and you could be at full the whole time. But anyway, the gameplay you're seeing in the background is a part of level 116 4-player Ride the Lightning mission with the modifiers Lightning Storm, Epic Mini Boss, Acid Pulse, Frenzy, Death Burst, and Life Leech attacks, and I was joined with 2 other players. And if you have the special perk that causes affliction or slows and snares targets, then you could just play it like any other SMG where you could just run up to the enemies, just spray them down, and you're good. But then if you have the standing and still perk, I would recommend standing not on top of the base, but like rather right next to one of the walls, because if you're on top of it, then lobbers and flingers will aim at you, and that's not very good, because remember, this is an SMG and not meant for longer range attacks, and lobbers and flingers are usually longer range, and so you won't be able to deal with them as well. So I'd suggest just standing next to a wall and just aim at all the enemies that are closest to the walls, so you're gonna be the main defense. So your teammates, they're gonna be out in the horde, they're gonna be taking out as many enemies as they can, and then the ones that get through, that's your job. You're gonna kill the ones that get through, so then they don't actually hit the base. And you could just take out all the trash, and if a whole horde gets through, then that's what the explosion perk is for, so then they all start exploding, and you could take them out a lot easier. But yeah, anyway, this weapon, I'd say, pretty good. I really like the perk where it causes affliction or slows and snares the targets instead of standing still, because that's not really that fun. I like being the head of the battle. And yeah, but anyway guys, if you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because I do these review videos where I review everything in Fortnite Save the World 3 times a day. I'll also like, comment, and share so that more people can see my videos. But anyway guys, I'll see you next time.